I'm sorry. Microphones. The long-term liability, public education, $125.66. Didn't we get a $5,000 donation from John Wayne last year, and did you guys spend it?
No.
If I'm not mistaken, we voted to have it all go to public education, and that was the thinking in the future, if they donated, it was going to public education. Is that not true? Or is it going to general fund?
I thought it was dedicated to public ed, but
I did too. I thought we voted on it.
Santa Cruz, we voted on it.
I'm sorry?
Santa Cruz, we voted on that to go to go 5 ed.
Yes. That's what I thought. So unless you spent it, there's something wrong here.
January to December, right?
This is what we have January through this year so far.
January 1st through December 31st.
Correct.
And I never got, the only thing I could pick up with the 126 as far as what was spent was trying to do a boost to the social media prior to Memorial Weekend with the PSA. But I didn't even handle that. I turned at the time, that was Leslie and Brian. So I don't know. I've got $4,500 right now in our account. Yeah, budget. This is saying that you have restricted funds of only $125. Yeah. Don't know. I think there's a problem. Maybe that's why I'm asking for money in this table.
And also, are we going to vote on this $5,000 that they're going to donate this year? Or Jay, do you remember if we did it, whenever they donate, it's always going to go to pub ed? Do you remember the motion?
Go back into our minutes to look at the language. I thought the original agreement was.
You remember that?
I remember the motion was that it would always be earmarked for public education unless there was some other need, and then it could be a motion that we would hit one time we would do that.
Right. In discussion, there was also talk of the travel. There was also discussion of the travel budget was low, but we had to distribute everything in the fall budget planning, and that we said that some of the pub ed money could be used to send a representative to represent pub ed. We could do it that way. Maybe the funds have been expended, but you guys haven't had a physical meeting, so I think we need to find out where that money is. That's all.
Yeah, because if the money is there, but it's not there right now, but it is there, then I don't need to ask for money. If it's in the restricted account where I have access to it. If it's not there, we only have $126, then I would like to ask for money.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused on what we have and what we don't.
Yeah, in all fairness, we have a new treasurer, and he's trying to get a grasp on what was handed to him, and
Yes.
I just think that's one
That's-
issue we need to investigate.
I guess, let's speed it up for now.
Yeah.
Right now, we have $4,500 in our budget. What we talked about is doing a boost of probably $500 3 times, Memorial Weekend, 4th of July weekend, and Labor Day. So that used up $1,500, say, leaving us $3,000. Yesterday in committee, we talked about pursuing the PR firm to get the PSA out into the hotels, which, as I recall, was going to run around $5,000. So what I was going to ask for today, assuming we don't have that $4,500, would be an additional $2,000. So I guess my request would be for $2,000, which would be, that request would be rescinded if it turns out the $4,500 actually is in our restricted account. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Charlotte?
On the profit loss versus the actual sheet, doesn't show that the 4,500 is there in public education? Not spent yet. On the profit loss side, the actual for January to April 4th is only shows a handful of expenditures on insurance and sport and things like that, but the 4,500 still showing as listed on public education for our, on the 2020 budget, the actual versus budget on the back of this report. It doesn't show any expenses for pub ed yet, just the $4,500, so.
And that probably needs to be looked at too, because I don't know if last spring, if anything, like I said, I think it was Brian and Leslie were gonna look into doing that boost. I don't know if it ever got done. I thought they had said it got done, but I never saw an invoice for it. It just, Brian, when he was doing the treasurer thing,
Just did it?
took care of it.
Okay.
So you might wanna check with him to find out if
Yeah.
anything got done last spring, because it might not have. It might have been all in the year before.
Okay, yeah, I could check on that.
I guess what I'm asking for everybody here is, for now requesting $2,000, which would, that request would be rescinded if it turns out we have the 4,500. That's $4,500 we have in the budget.
Right,
But
but it also shows, the budget, but it also shows that it's still actually in your account.
The budget is, but not, the restricted account probably should have $5,000
From last year.
from last year, because we didn't do any projects. I mean, other than the boost.
You guys didn't, but did we request that 5,000 last year to be moved somewhere? I thought we did in the spring. That I
I don't remember that.
don't either. I remember we had issues.
You
from
got some
last year,
homework to
though.
do. Maybe it'd be easier to not request anything and wait until it's, see,
Well, we need to establish every time we receive the $5,000 from John Wayne, that it goes into this public education restricted account automatically, and then it'll show each time. And then when we do our budget in the fall, we'll see that's there. We can give you the budget, but you could always go over budget because you have restricted funds. And once you use those restricted funds, then you're done.
yeah,
So,
and they could go to, if somebody else requested it, this would.
right, if you do a partnership with junior guards, or you need to send a delegate to represent your interests to the national meeting, whatever, that's up to the Public Education Committee to decide, but it should be your money to decide.
I guess it'd be easier that if I rescind the last request,
That's just my opinion.
I would
Okay.
like to request the $5,000 from John Wayne Cancer Foundation go into the public education restricted fund.
I'll second that if you make it every time they donate.
I would, yeah, amend the request to every time they donate, it would automatically go into the public education restricted fund.
I'll second that.
Well, then you're in luck. They just gave us a check yesterday.
Said it went into the bank out of that.
And Mike, just reading back to the minutes, it looks like the motion, and I made it, back in Santa Cruz, was, it was for the one-time check. We didn't make it an annual thing, but it was 4,000 went to pub ed, 1,000 went to general fund out of that $5,000 donation. That's what we did in Santa Cruz. I can't find anything in the minutes since Santa Cruz.
And now they have the whole money, and then they can make the decision at each meeting whether they're going to give it to somebody.
Motion's on the floor.
Anybody second? You second? Discussion? Anybody for? Against? Motion passes. All $5,000 will go to pub ed for now until we deem otherwise. there any other money requests?
Yes. In Lake Castaic, I made a, I don't know if there's a motion made or not, but it was to explore, actually, what's that? In Lake Castaic, I brought up an issue where I would like to purchase a printer for the regionals competition, or the Surf Life Saving Championships, as it's called. I was going to explore the cost, and I did. And the amount is, darn it, where'd it go? $129 for the black and white laser printer, and $47.99 for the toner for the printer. So that way we can do this on the beach and have nice printouts that won't run when they get wet. So, do I have to make a motion to get that approved?
What's the total?
It is a grand total of, in my mind, let's see, 9,647, $279.99. I'd like to make a motion for the amount of $2,799 or close to that amount to be spent for a printer and toner for the CSLSA Surf Life Saving Championships.
And would we be pulling that from Life Saving Sport?
Half from sport, half from JG.
Suggestion,
Yes,
make your motion not to exceed $225, and if so, I'll second it. You said 207, right?
I just,
279, not to exceed $300. That'll give you tax window and all the other.
okay, I'd like
I'll
to make a
second it.
motion to not exceed $300 for the purchase of a printer and toner.
Half from junior guards, half from Life
Yes.
Saving Sport.
Half from junior guards, half from Life Saving Sport.
Second.
Second, discussion? All for? Opposed? Passed.
Thank you.
Any other money requests? Yeah. Come on, somebody wants more money. Okay. Well, then I'm gonna sit back down. And I will get that figured out for you, Mike.
Good morning. If you guys want to take like a 5-minute break or something, and then we'll.
Hi, my name's Brittany Sanchez, and I'm a California State Parks Peace Officer Lifeguard in San Diego. We're currently at beautiful Carter State Beach, and we're going to do some talks about rip currents. The most important thing to do about ocean safety if you're coming to the beach for beach day with your family is to know before you go. You can check ocean conditions from home. See if it's low tide like it is today, or high tide. If there's large swell that day, or maybe check the wind as well. So let's say you get down to the beach and you want to know where the safest place to swim is. The best thing to do is to go talk to a local lifeguard. Find an open lifeguard tower and ask them where the safest place to swim is for that day. A lot of times we'll put up rip current flags. They're large red flags, and that'll let you know that that is a dangerous area to swim. Rip currents are typically characterized by brown, choppy water. You can actually see this from shore. So you'll see nice blue calm water, and then you'll notice, hey, that looks kind of weird. It's brown in color, maybe there's some debris in it, and you can definitely tell it's a lot choppier than the other parts of the ocean. So there's 2 feeder currents come in, then the water flows outward in that rip current, and once the rip current begins to dissipate, it actually takes the shape of a large mushroom. And you'll actually be able to see this really well if you're wearing polarized sunglasses. Lifeguards tend to wear polarized sunglasses for that reason. They can really see the difference between where there's a rip current and where there's not. One of the ways we can really show you is we actually put some dye in the ocean. It's non-toxic and bright colored. We drop that dye into the feeder current of a rip current, and we can actually watch and see what happens. Just like if that dye was a person, where that person is going to end up floating to. You can actually see the water coming all the way from shore, going straight out to sea, and then form that large mushroom cloud and dissipate. That way we can visually show people what a rip current actually does and why it's dangerous and how to escape it. If you happen to find yourself stuck in a rip current, the most important thing to do is to stay calm. Stay calm and remain floating. If you're in a rip current and you're on a boogie board or a surfboard or any other flotation device, stay on that flotation device and wait for the lifeguard to come and help you back to shore. When the lifeguard comes to help you back to shore, they're going to bring you parallel to shore. That's how you escape the grip of the rip. You swim parallel to shore, so you're out of that current, and then you can swim back into shore. If you happen to be in a rip current and you're trying to come back into shore right in that rip current, it's going to be like swimming on a treadmill. You're not going to make any progress, and you're most likely going to get tired. So what you want to do, once again, is swim parallel to shore and then back in.
A lot of our coastline is lined with natural bluffs. These bluffs are naturally eroding. A lot of the impacts that we see from the erosion is from the tides, the high surf. There's also groundwater coming out of these bluffs, and obviously rain and wind conditions that we incur throughout the year.
So this is kind of interesting material that came from right up there. You can see the white flecks in there, and it's sand-like, just compressed sand.
These bluffs are very fragile. We have several incidents throughout the year that we incur failures. We've had situations to where it affected residents here, structures, homes, beach accesses, staircases, and the unfortunate situations we've actually had people injured and killed.
Lifeguards would like the attention. Just letting you know, the bluff area right above you is very unstable. We recommend that you move a few feet away from that bluff, as we do have active bluff failures in the area. A lot of people don't realize when they go to the beach that the tide might be coming up for the remainder of their beach day. They set up in the morning, the tide comes up, they start moving back, and pretty soon they're recreating right underneath a really dangerous bluff. I know I've been working this coastline for quite a while, and I've seen the bluff erode feet, which is a lot in only a few years.
We track, measure, record these instances throughout the year, and we also work with Scripps, Institute of Oceanography, right down here just south of us in San Diego County, and they're up here monitoring this area with some advanced equipment.
One of the nice things about these new tools is that we're able to monitor the beaches and the cliffs all together at once. We can look at how the system interacts. They aren't really separate systems, and they work together. So today we're going to go and do a LiDAR survey of the cliffs. We're going to have a truck-based system as well as a drone out there so that we can map both the bottom and the tops of the cliffs simultaneously. Unfortunately, predicting landslides is very difficult. It's similar to earthquakes in the sense that we know when they're going to happen, or we know they are going to happen, but not necessarily exactly when, and we can give you some sort of probabilistic information to say, you know, there are time periods where landslides are more likely to occur, for example, like after a rainfall, or if we have a large wave event, but predicting exactly when and where a landslide is very difficult to do.
Check in with the lifeguards, pick your locations based off of tides and conditions, and always come down and be aware of your surroundings. Situational awareness is a big deal. And so heed the signs, and again, please give us a call if you have any questions.
My name is Jake Ratterman, and I'm a lifeguard at City of Encinitas. My story in the emergency medical world really started in Montana, where I received my training. And after I received my training, there was this great organization that I wanted to see and be a part of. They were actually doing medical clinics in Costa Rica. And, you know, I saw this opportunity, and of course I had to jump on it. And, you know, we went out to Costa Rica, and it was just a beautiful experience. Got to experience a culture like no other. Got to be in a place that I wasn't really familiar with, and, you know, actually work with a team of doctors and other medical professionals. And we administered medical clinics in various villages, and really just got that hands-on feel. And, you know, after that, you know, awesome experience, I kind of, you know, was looking for the next step, like what I really wanted to do and how I wanted to, you know, use my medical skills to betterment of the community. And actually saw, you know, Lifeguard. You know, wasn't a huge swimmer, wasn't a huge, you know, water guy, but I loved surfing. You know, I loved, you know, fishing and all that fun stuff. And so, you know, Lifeguard really draw to me. And then became a lifeguard, went through the academy. Became a lifeguard at Encinitas. Being able to communicate with a team, you know, of like-minded individuals that share the same passions as you, you know, share the same love of the ocean and the water, and, you know, serving the community. And, you know, if that's at the forefront of their mind and that's their mindset going into each and every day at the work, you know, in the work environment, you know, that's people that I want to be with. That's people I want to work with. And, you know, those qualities that I've learned from individuals within, you know, my agency and within the community, you know, of life-saving, just seeing those individuals and the passions they have really inspires me every single day to pursue my own passion of, you know, helping other people and individuals and communities. You know, and so I'd always had that itch to go back abroad and to, you know, keep that, you know, pursuing that passion of helping people in other countries that are less fortunate, in communities that, you know, I'm not actually a part of. And so took that and, you know, I created my own opportunity since, you know, there wasn't a lot out there. I thought, you know, I'd create my own and take a couple lifeguards with me. And we're actually going to Indonesia, Lombok, to teach CPR and first aid. And, you know, I've got 3 amazing lifeguards with me that are coming. And we're gonna, you know, use our information and our knowledge that we've learned lifeguarding and help other people abroad. And we want to give them the knowledge so that if they are in a medical situation, that they have the tools and the basic necessities to effectively, you know, help somebody else. And so, you know, with that, I want our lifeguards, you know, the lifeguards in the community to gain experience like I did, you know, in Costa Rica. And so we're going to bring this back to our communities in San Diego, and I feel like that's the most important part of this whole expedition.
go to El Paso.
Okay, we're going to get started in just 1 minute, as soon as everybody finds their seat. Okay, we're going to reconvene the meeting right now. And first off, thank you all for making it back here a second day. Really appreciate it. It was a nice turnout, a huge turnout for the Ways and Means Committee. So I commend everybody for getting up early for that. So, he wants to get it out of the way. We're going to go into our committee reports, and unless there's objection, I was going to take one out of order. Mr. Silvestri has to leave early, so if there's no objection, we'll just start off with public ed and then get back into order. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And thanks, Brian, again. Last night, the dinner was awesome. The entertainment factor, Brandon was pretty hysterical. And congratulations on Encinitas for winning everything last night. Looked like a freaking Christmas tree at the base of Ketter's feet. Let's see. So public safety, we talked about the PSA, and everybody was in agreement that we pursued doing the social media boost for Memorial Weekend, 4th of July, and Labor Day, because we got some pretty good increases in views and all that. And then I will pursue, I have to dig back through minutes from quite a few years ago, but the PR company that worked with the Ben Carlson Foundation that we got turned on to see if it's even viable to try and get the PSA into the hotels at this point in time. And if not, then we'll push it toward a fall project type of thing. But that's still the long-range goal. As far as the PSA, the SoCal paddle, excuse me, working on a contact list. That's probably going to be the main thing I got to get done here pretty quick is an updated contact list on who's going to be the paddle master with each agency, or a couple people that, because a few years ago we had a good solid list that we created in the spring, and then when I put out the first email blast, the paddle's starting in Gaviota, it went to everybody, and the request was reply all every time you talk about the paddle, where it is. And that worked really well to keep everybody in tune, and that's what we'll be asking of again is with the master list, just reply all and let people know where the paddle's out, or the paddle's going to come out of the water for a few days because we just don't have the staff or it's too busy, which is, we all know that's going to happen on weekends and things like that. Mainly, what made it most successful is everybody communicated really well where the paddle was, where it was going to end up at the end of the day. And then it moved along really well. I didn't get a chance to talk to you, Jay. Are the boards still in LA County?
Boards are in my storage area. I need to get him up to Scoggin so he can start this off. Just a quick sidebar. The GPS units that we had a couple years ago went missing when the boards were in Hermosa Beach. So someone had access from LA County or LA County GG's purloined it. And how we can't find a GPS unit when its whole design is to locate. So LA County Surf Life Saving Association needs to get a new GPS unit for this year, and that will help us in tracking the board. And then the other problem with the mail list is when you did it last year, like half of them came back as dead emails. So we do need to clean that up.
Yeah, and I have no idea about
It's not on you. It's just, you send it out and all these things got reply all. There's no one there.
But we'll work on making sure that's a solid email list. And if we get the GPS, because that was pretty cool, you could track it every day. And that's something we posted on the website, as I recall, with a link. So the public could go on there. If we could tie that. The other thing we talked about yesterday as far as the paddle is, and I'll have to talk to you, Jay, down the line here. You guys produced that video that was just incredible to see if LA County would give us approval, the CSLSA, to boost that on a social media platform once the paddle especially starts approaching LA County, in the hopes of it, it gets some views, and then we actually are raising some money for John Wayne Cancer Foundation. So I don't know if they're going to be provincial, say you can't touch that, that's ours.
Yeah, they posted it and boosted it. I'm sure there's no problem sharing it, and I'd like to update it because that was that was pre-pandemic, I think.
Yeah, it was. That was the last great year that it just moved through, and we finished the paddle before Labor Day and everything. So, well, let me know anything I can do. That was the one concern, was we got to find a way to get it in the public's eye a little bit more, and we thought that video is just awesome. And if we could get that boosted, and especially as it approaches LA County, that would be really cool. Let's see. We talked a little bit, Sean mentioned there was some Coronado footage that they did, and we might look to incorporate some of that as well. Stingray study, I haven't gotten an answer yet, but I'll follow up with the doctors down at UCSD to find out if we could make a sticker with their QR code, and then I can just send them out to everybody, so we can have the plasticized sheets, the full sheets that you can post in a garage or whatever, but the stickers could be on the back of clipboards or your phone or on the vehicle. We could put the stickers a lot of places and make it a lot easier, because we're probably losing a lot of people that we don't actually end up treating. Hey, I got hit by a ray. Good. Go get in your car, go home, soak it in hot water. If problems happen, see a doctor, that type of thing. So we'll see if we get approval for that. And I think that would be pretty cool if we could just get the stickers out. And as far as chairing the committee, had interest from Sam and Devin and Lola. Talked to them last night. Still didn't get like, yeah, we're all in. I think they'll be in there. They are? Excellent. Okay, well, I'm done. I'm out of here. So that's good, especially the three of them working together. It should be pretty exciting, and it's right down their line as far as the social media stuff. They're very savvy on it, especially Sam, talking to her last night. And then education and training, we talked last night, I forget who it was, it Santa Cruz talked about the Living Works Assist Suicide Prevention Program. Okay, brought that up, and we discussed that, and probably put it in the minutes in the report and get that out to everybody. They have an online program, and they also will do custom programs for the different departments. And it's kind of funny because that was something that came up when we met with Scripps a few days ago, and the suicide prevention team from San Diego County, and it's the next San Diego City Guard that's running the program. Obviously, a kind of a hot topic right now, along with the peer support. So we'll follow up with that. Be working hard to get, I have an old training officers list, but need to update that, find out who the training contact is in each department, and then go back to trying creating a calendar, finding out what training different agencies are doing and whether it's going to be open to other agencies, like they're doing with the de-escalation training on April 20th, being hosted by Newport Beach. So hopefully some people will be able to make that training from San Diego County and LA County. And we talked a little bit about, the one thing that we wanted to do with SLAC and PWAC with San Diego and Hogue is get to where we're doing more virtual trainings. And I think we'll get that off the ground this year. We're probably, we have our educational conference almost etched in stone, July 13th. And as soon as that's done, we'll finish up the flyer and blast that out to everybody. And that'll be a virtual presentation. Brandon will be helping us out on that again. And then probably after Labor Day in the fall, we'll be looking to do some other trainings, like probably do a suicide prevention program with the managers to get them to buy in, with the intention of presenting that next summer to the seasonals during the middle of summer. And then maybe do a couple other, where women in lifeguarding's come up, recruiting has come up, things along those lines. So probably try and get to where we're maybe doing 2, 3, 4 of those presentations each year. And every time we do it, hopefully recording it and creating a library that everybody would have access to through the CSLSA site. So, you know, if your guys have a downtime and it's a rainy day or whatever, and they're just picking their nose, you can send them over to watch that training and get some refresher training. And that's about it for public safety and training. Any questions? Okay, it's been an honor serving as the pub ed. I'm excited about switching over to lifeguard education and training, and wish the other three good luck.
Mike? Bob?
Yeah, where's the booth? Do you know? We used to check it out, check it in, and we were discussing it last night, and nobody seemed to know where it was.
I certainly don't know where it is. I would have to put out a blast to all the agencies. For some reason, it seems like the last time it was used was up in the Ventura area, but I'm not sure. And it hasn't been requested for a long time now. I think the last time I remember where it was really in the forefront was back in Long Beach when we met there. So
Yeah, I think it's been a while and people forgot we had it.
Yeah.
And so that, maybe that's why it's not requested, and plus we don't know who to request it from, so.
yeah, we actually had a calendar at one point
Yeah.
where everybody requested it, and probably because of the pandemic, nobody was going out and doing presentations, and all those things kind of went by the wayside. I'll have to find out,
Yeah.
see if I can track it
And
down.
if it's any good, or if it needs replaced, or,
Yeah,
okay.
cool. Anything else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, bylaws, policies, and procedures. Is there a report?
I have three things, and we have them listed under new business with the secretary, so I could wait until then, or I could present now and we could vote then. How would you like to do it, Mr. President?
Do it under new business,
Okay.
please. Any questions? Exchanges. Oh, I'm sorry, certification. Is anybody here? I think mostly it was covered yesterday in the report. Exchanges, probably no report. Grants, do we have anything from grants? Moving right along. Junior lifeguards, I know we have some junior lifeguard reports.
Good morning.
Morning.
So the bulk of our committee meeting was spent on the gender equity issues in terms of revising the guidelines set forth by the subcommittee. And there were some suggestions made for a further revision, and that included the rescue race going to the tube model for the A division. It's currently under that model in the under 19 division, and that is a 12-team max per heat, or a straight final if there's less than 12 teams, and those are 4 people, gender specific, per team. We're going to institute the surf teams for all age divisions with a max. The teams will be 3 persons of the same gender with a max of 12 teams per heat, a total of 36 individuals. And we are going to do a run relay is going to be 4 persons per gender per team. We've eliminated the cones, and we're going to run the straight 90-meter relay, and that's going to be 2 teams per agency. And the paddleboard relay for all age divisions is going to be 3 teams per agency, 2 teams per agency, sorry, and 3 persons per team. And the A division will have, similar to the under 19 division, where they will not carry their boards through transition. whereas the B and C divisions will carry their boards and have a board exchange for their transition. So this motion was made to accept the guidelines put forth with the revisions that were discussed in committee, and the motion was made by Colin Herrick from Santa Cruz and seconded by Jason Johnson from Port Hueneme. It was also determined in committee that there will be no composite teams. If you have only, say, 2 individuals and you don't have another team in there, there could be a composite team, just as long as members of your team don't exceed the number of teams that are allowed per agency. So we will revise these guidelines with the subcommittee and get them out to all the coordinators and put this into action at the 2022 regionals. I was asked to yield the chair during the regional discussion of our meeting. Mr. Berline explained why we went away from the vote that was passed by the board of directors for a 40-60 split of the regional competition fee. For those that recall, there was a fee increase up to $20 passed at the fall meeting. Of that, $8 was to go to the host and $12 was going to go to the committee. And Mr. Berline explained that under the current host agreement, that split is not taking place, and it's a $5 for the host and $3 for the regional. The $20 increase is still there, but that does contradict a little bit of the vote of directors that took place in the fall. We talked about some of the logistical challenges of including the t-shirts for all the kids, and addressed the bulk registration issue and how that posed for t-shirt registration, and we didn't really come to any resolution or solution at this time. And we handed out grant applications. We determined that there was a due date of May 15th for those agencies that are interested in grants. The grant application is also available on the website. If you go back to your agencies and your coordinator's not here, that opportunity is for them. And that was it. Thank you.
Question? Can I get a clarification? A board of director voted on something and they were told that's no longer appropriate? Is that what I heard?
Is that to me?
Yeah, you made
Yes, well, in the fall meeting, it was voted to increase the regional fee from $12 to $20 for juniors. Thank you, Charlotte. And that $8 fee increase would go to the host agency, and every participant would be provided with a t-shirt at the event.
Okay, then I have a question for Mr. Berline. What happened?
So what happened was the shirts, in the negotiations with Scott Hubble after the meeting and the board decision, during negotiations with Scott Hubble, he agreed to provide t-shirts for all the junior lifeguard competitors. So the fee increase was initially based on the host receiving an $8, there was an $8 fee increase from $12 to $20. And the host was going to get the entire $8 increase, but then they were going to have to purchase shirts for the junior guards. During the negotiations with Scott Hubble after the board of directors meeting, he agreed to provide the t-shirts for all the junior lifeguard competitors for free. So at that point, during the negotiations of the host agreement, we said that there was, the decision of the board of directors was moot because there was no reason to give them the $8 fee increase because the t-shirts were being provided for free. So at that point, we further negotiated with the host and determined to go to to be in conformance with the policies and procedures, that we would give the host 25% of all entry fees. Prior to that, including last year, the host did not get any percentage of the junior guard entry fees. So what we decided during the negotiations, this is the executive board, we decided that we were going to give the host 25% of all junior guard entry fees, just as we do for the adults. And we went further to include the host would receive 25% of all late fees as well. And that actually would work out to, with the new fee increase being up to $20, it would guarantee the host $5 per entry. So that was what was put into the host agreement. The host agreement was approved by the board of directors, and it's been signed by both parties.
Okay, board of director action said that the host gets $8, correct?
$8 to include them buying shirts and providing the shirts,
Well,
which they're not doing.
It didn't say buy shirts, they got $8. They were asked to provide shirts. What if they got sponsorship for shirts and they plan on using the $8 for something else? We have a board action saying we gave $8. The executive board negotiated as they should, and then you bring it back to here and you explain the differences. I honestly believe that if you don't want to give them the $8, then you need a board action to say you no longer get $8. If I remember right, it was to give them $8, they were to provide shirts. It didn't say that they had to take half their money to buy shirts. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I just think there's a conflict here.
Well, the rationale for the $8 fee increase, it was entirely based on providing the shirts. That was the rationale for the fee increase. And then in the negotiations with the sponsor agreement, it was determined that the T-shirts were going to be provided. So the feeling of the executive board was that made the fee increase was moot at that point.
Board action.
Anybody else
Charlotte.
want to weigh in? I mean, we
Sure.
could just make another motion to adopt the signed contract with the host and also the sponsorship agreement to basically reflect what is in those agreements.
Charlotte Graham.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like our board action still exists and it still stands as a future model, but that we could just amend it today with a motion. I can make a motion that the board action stands with $8 going to a host unless a contract is negotiated that's amenable to both the host and the CSLSA for that particular host year. Because in this case, you guys worked on this contract, and both parties are now happy with it, and they're happy with what they're gonna get and how it's all working out, and it's most likely more beneficial than if they just got the $8. So they're happy. So, but in the future, maybe the next person who's hosting doesn't wanna have to negotiate that whole thing out, and they'll say, we'll just take the $8. So kinda like what we do with our meeting model, where we have either you can start with feeder starter money, or you can not start with feeder money, and then similar to that, what we put in place for these kinds of meetings. Because he's not wrong, I mean, the board action still exists, and it was what the JG committee wanted, that the $8 goes to the host. But if something better comes along, then maybe if it can be negotiated and approved, then I don't see why that would stand in the way. And I haven't formulated a motion in my mind yet, but.
Okay, thank you. What's? Well, we right now there's questions, and then we do not have a motion on the table right now. Yeah.
We have to look historically that the T-shirt revenue sales has been far as I've been around. So although first of all, Charlotte, happiness is relative to a certain degree, I think, and I don't think it's fair for you to necessarily gauge someone's level of happiness. So I refute that to a certain degree. But yes, you're guaranteeing $5 for 600 kids, which is 6 times 5 is $3,000. But if you sell, like we have every other year before, you sell 500 units of t-shirts at $15, you got $7,500. So we can't paint this pretty picture of it being this great deal just because they're guaranteed $5 for 600 kids, when at the end of the day, maybe it's not, and you're shortchanging the host who does the lion's share of the work for this event. And it's a lot of work for the associations, and it's unfair for you guys to look at this as such a great opportunity when you're limiting the potential revenue for any host association. And yes, I'm not a member of the Huntington State Beach Junior Lifeguard Association. I'm certainly peripherally involved with them because that's the agency I work for. So, and we have been involved in hosting, I think, 6 of the last 10 regionals and are happy to do so. But the portrayal of this as being a great opportunity for the host, in my view, is not true. And like Mr. Moore stated, the presumption that the $8 was 4 of that or 5 of that or whatever rationale you're using that to justify going against the will of the board of directors is not true as well, because they could get sponsorship for the shirts, and those could come at no cost. Thank you.
I would just like to correct one thing that Mr. Egan said. He said that the sole source of income was the t-shirts, and actually the host traditionally has other sponsorship in vendors and also concessions. So the t-shirts are not the sole income source.
Are there any other questions?
What precludes the JG committee from donating is it $5? Is that the difference between what you guys had agreed on last fall and what's happening in the contract? $3. Okay, so what precludes the JG committee from, at the fall meeting or at some point, donating $3 per competitor to the host? And that meets the intent of your JG committee motion.
But we're still going against the board of directors vote that took place in the fall, correct?
Mr. Moore?
I didn't mean to cause a ruckus. I just saw a problem there, that's all.
Yeah,
And
and-
it needs to be resolved.
And so, and I don't know if Mr. Avila wants to weigh in on any of this, but there was a lot of discussion about board of directors doing a vote, and then after the vote, we, CSLSA, went into an agreement with a sponsor that gave us shirts. Now Huntington, or the host, I'll just say the host, was no longer even had a responsibility even to provide shirts. So that right there is almost, again, because the $8 fee increase, the host was to provide t-shirts. So there was already some changes in what had happened in our board of directors meeting, and then we went into an agreement where we got shirts that we were just going to give to Huntington Beach. But then at the same time, now they don't have to pay for shirts. And so, you know, we proposed a fee sharing that was just exactly the same as we do with adults. On the adult day, the host gets 25%. And we thought, okay, this is, and from our perspective, we thought this is very fair. It makes it easy. And in the board of directors meeting, the idea was it wasn't necessarily that the host was going to sell shirts, because the motion, you know, they were going to give shirts. So we didn't feel like we were cutting into future profit that the host could make on selling t-shirts, because that was built into the $8 increase. So anyway, and I spoke with Mr. Avila to get some unofficial legal advice on what happens when you have a board of directors meeting happens, and then you get a sponsorship agreement that was with one party, and then we're working on a host agreement with a different party, but things change, and Mr. Avila gave me some advice on how things do change, and it's common in negotiations, and you have some authority to go with the intent. So our goal throughout this was to meet the intent of, as we understood, the board of directors wished that the host could make more money and it to be more attractive for a host. This offered that. It gave them a guaranteed amount, so they didn't have to worry about what if all the shirts don't sell, and how much they paid for shirts and all. And it gave the kids shirts, which was another goal. So we negotiated that in what we thought was the spirit of the board of directors. But if it needs to be changed somehow, and I'm not the bylaw expert, I'll rely on you all to come up with how we do that. Charlotte gave a proposal, but if something else needs to be changed, we're certainly open to it.
You're right, Mr. President. Board of directors take action. They give direction to the executive board. The executive board tries to do the business of the association under the guise of what the board of directors want. And whatever they do, they bring to the next meeting, they lay it all out, and then the board of directors vote again. And that is correct. I think my vote in the fall was to give them $8. I didn't care how they spent their money. So my intent was to give them $8, period. The executive board sounds like had other ideas and feel they met the requirement. So my feeling of a solution is they voted $8 to the host. If that's not what you want to do now, then we make a motion saying what you're saying now, or you give them the $8, you give them the shirts, and you move forward. That's my thoughts on the matter.
My recommendation is that we did exactly what you just said, and we did exactly what President Humphrey said. We had the decision of the board of directors, and then there was negotiation on the sponsorship agreement that took care of an aspect that had been decided by the board of directors. The fee increase was based on the T-shirts. That was the sole justification that is in writing.
That wasn't my intent when I voted.
Right, I understand. I don't know what.
And I'm not sure I'm the only one that feels that way.
Okay.
Now, I might be.
Yes, but we don't know every person who votes what their intent is and what's in their head. What I'm saying is, and I'm going to go a little bit further here. Okay, the Junior Guard Committee met last fall. Mm-hmm. I was not at that meeting. Bill Humphreys was not at that meeting. A number of the executive board members were not at that meeting. A report was given, and it was decided, it was said at that point, this is what the Junior Guard Committee met, discussed, and this is how we'd like to proceed. Mm-hmm. The board of directors, I don't know that the board of directors actually approved the Junior Guard Committee report at that time. When we went back to find the Junior Guard Committee report, it wasn't even attached to the minutes. So it had never been submitted in writing. That was another problem. In the meantime, Mr. Avila started negotiations with Scott Hubble on the sponsorship agreement.
When was that?
That had to be in October, November.
Oh, okay.
After
the meeting.
It was after the meeting, yes.
Okay.
So, and that was unbeknownst to anybody else, the terms of that negotiation at that point, T-shirts were included in that deal between them, and then the contract was drawn up and was, at that point, I was asked to get involved to review the contract and to see how it looked. So at that point, we said, okay, we got free T-shirts in this agreement, blah, 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 and we were told, well, the board had approved, or there was a decision at the board of directors meeting to increase the fees for the junior guards to $8, but it was going to include T-shirts. That's what it was based on. Now the sponsorship deal was being negotiated, and it said T-shirts were free and included. So again, up to that point, myself, Mr. Humphreys, and others were not involved in any of this. All of a sudden, we find out we've got a contract with Scott Hubble that's being proposed that's going to include free T-shirts. So at that time, we started researching what had been decided in the fall. And again, we did not have a junior guard committee report in writing. And so we went with what the information that we had and the intent of the vote that was taken in committee that we were not at. And we made a decision to do what we felt was in the best interest of the association based on the information that we had. And we put countless hours into negotiating a deal that we personally didn't want to be involved with, but we got drawn into, and we felt that we made a decision that was fair to all parties and in the best interest of the association. So if somebody wants to make a motion to rescind the motion that was made in the fall or to change the contracts that we've negotiated, they can do that. My suggestion would be that we formally adopt both of the agreements that we've signed, because the board of directors has not actually approved the contract, the sponsorship contract with Scott Hubble, and they have not actually approved the host agreement that President Humphreys signed yesterday in front of everybody with the authority that he has as president. So I think that if we approve both those contracts, I believe that that alone supersedes the vote that was taken last fall. But if we need to make another motion in regard to that, we can do that. So that's what I would suggest, that we approve those two contracts, and then if we need to make any other motion relative to the fall, we can do that. But that's one man's opinion.
Well, we could do that at the appropriate time. Again, this is way longer than I thought. I just wanted to bring out that there was a conflict there.
Right, Bob, and taking in consideration the negotiations, we also had to break it apart in the fact that it wasn't simply the junior guards that approval. And we sit at these meetings and we sometimes forget that we were representing all of the members, and not just one little piece of our association. And so both sides, it negotiated back and forth for a long time. But I think from the board of directors standpoint, Mike was representing that the money isn't just about junior guards. It's about how it affects the entire membership and what we can do. And in breaking down with the HSBJG Association, what their intent was in requesting the money or trying to get the money previously was to offset their cost of purchasing the shirts and then making them available. And so we the parties, reached the middle ground that Chris is right. Doesn't mean both sides were happy. Doesn't mean either side were happy, but it's a negotiation, and sometimes negotiations get a little heated. Sometimes they're amicable, but you still reach an agreement. With the intent, we felt that the intent was reached of what the board had approved previously, which was they get this money, and they had already told us that they were going to spend money to make money, right? They were going to spend $4 or $6 on the shirt and include it in their registration. So they weren't going to clear, sorry, I don't mean they, in a fantasy world, the association or the host was not going to profit $8 per person. True, they could have gotten sponsors, but they did not have sponsors at the time they were negotiating the contract. So they were going to look at a cost. It wasn't going to be an $8 per person profit. And we tried to, this executive board tried to reach with the host an amicable and acceptable agreement that didn't offset them, didn't make them lose money as was done last year. So.
Heated with Scott?
The negotiations with Mr. Hubble were actually not heated. They were very simple, easy, and quick.
Wow, times have changed.
Okay, so I don't want to leave anything, hanging. So I'd like to ask the bylaw and procedure experts, does the solution that Mr. Berline came up with the Board of Directors voting approval on those two agreements?
Just as long as it's explained that we approved this last meeting, this is what we negotiated, these are the terms. If they vote it, then it would supersede the last one. So under your agenda, that would be new business, I would believe.
Yeah, we have them under A.
Okay.
Is the host agreement.
Just clearly explain it, and I think that would supersede.
Okay,
But
perfect.
When I heard a board action and then somebody came and said, well, it's not going to be that way, it's just like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I appreciate that. Thank
All
you.
right. Sorry for the.
Yeah. No, thank you for your input, everybody. Okay, we are going to take a deviation, I'm not going to call it a break, from our agenda right now, and I'd like to see if Brian Ketterer could come forward and introduce our special dignitary. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time, Board of Directors. We have a special guest in our midst. She was a former council member, mayor, or just a council member, and assemblywoman now for us, does a ton in her district for our public safety, specifically our lifeguards. And I invited her yesterday to be part of our award ceremony. She was unable to make it, so I asked her if she could spend a few minutes recognizing those. I think she brought something for the 26 that were recognized yesterday, as well as talk about what I think you're calling your Baywatch bills. So I just wanted to give her a few minutes. So Assemblywoman Tasha Bonner-Horvath, if you could come up and speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you everybody to being here. Yeah, we have Baywatch bills. We all nickname bills in the state assembly, so people can remember what we're doing. It's so great to be with you here today. I never thought I would learn so much about $8 in t-shirts in my life. So good morning. My name is Tasha Berner-Horvath, and I used to be on the council here. I used to sit right here. And now I've been in the state assembly since 2018. My district is Encinitas, Carlsbad, Oceanside, Vista, and Camp Pendleton. So obviously, our life-saving organizations, our lifeguards, and our marine safety teams are super important for the health and safety of our district. And, I really appreciate, we do have certificates for all of our heroes who were really making sure that our beaches and our waterways are safe. So I really appreciate that. But today I get to talk to you about my Baywatch bills. So we have AB 1672 and AB 1682. They shouldn't have taken similar numbers because I never remember which bill is which. And so AB 1672 is our lifeguard certification equivalency. You'll know that we have different agencies that certify ocean water and open water lifeguards versus pools. This, of course, in the pandemic was such a big issue. Right? A lot of our pools were closed. A lot of people went off and did different things. So the city of Carlsbad came to me and they said, look, we have a problem. We are having to close our pools because we don't have enough certified lifeguards for our pools. Can we use our lifeguards who aren't on the beach for the pools. And it would seem to everybody that if you're certified to save lives and do all the stuff that keeps beaches safe, you're fine at a pool, right? Like the common sense people, when I introduced the bill, my colleagues were like, do we really need to do this? And I said, yes, they can't do it without legislation. And so we ran AB 1672, and and it's gone really well. We've had to take some amendments because people are worried about what color lights are on what things. So, oh no, sorry, that's 1682. But yeah, we have to take some amendments to make sure the Red Cross and the YMCA, they thought we wanted to steal all of their lifeguards for something else. And we're like, no one's stealing lifeguards. I'm not really sure. Yes, we love all our lifeguards, but we're not stealing them. And so this bill is headed to the Assembly floor in the next couple of weeks, and we hope to move it to the Senate. And it will allow, if you have certification for open water and beach lifeguards, they can, if the city calls a lifeguard emergency, then they can be used for pools. So we did have to take that amendment to make sure that the Red Cross and the YMCA didn't think we were going to steal all of their lifeguards. And it is funny that we're going to have a Baywatch emergency declared in certain cities up and down the coast. So we're going to watch this bill. I'm sure it has a lot of support. In fact, one of my colleagues, when it was up in health, he's Chad Mays. He's from Palm Springs area, and or Yucca Valley. And he said, I was a pool lifeguard, and I know what beach lifeguards do. And they are far superior than us. This is ridiculous that we have to do this. And I said, yes, it's ridiculous, but this is what we have to do. And so, I know. But it's these small changes, right? Sometimes it's these small changes, and we can joke about it, but it's the small changes that are able to keep our pools open. It's able to keep people, getting their swimming training. People are able to go into the water in seasons where our lifeguards on our beaches really don't need them. And so it's a really important thing to do. And then AB 1682 is our lifeguard speed limit bill. I'm not sure what people think is going on, but basically there's a speed limit when lifeguards are doing rescues of 5 miles an hour. And when you are saving lives, you want to get there as fast as possible. This is the one where we had to take an amendment about which color light. Law enforcement didn't want us using blue lights, and I was like, I don't know if you'd use blue lights on the ocean. Can you even see it because it's blue? Anyways, these are the things we deal with. This is like, the sausage making of Baywatch bills. It's like, what color lights can be on the jet skis, And this bill would allow, in cases of emergency response, that you could go over the 5 mile speed limit in rescuing. And, again, when it went through committee, and this bill is already in the Senate, when it went through committee, people are like, do we really need this bill? Right? It seems like if you're rescuing somebody on the water, you can go as fast as possible to go rescue them. And I'm not sure why they think they're going to be speeding lifeguards everywhere. Like, I'm not, some people are like, well, what if they do it just for fun? And it was like, well, they're working. I'm not really sure anybody is doing this just for fun. They want to get there. They want to rescue. They want to come back, right? It's about saving lives. And we know so many people and so many of our heroes who, received awards yesterday. They were out there, and they'll do it, and they'll take that risk, but they don't need to take a risk of, getting a ticket or violating a law when they're just trying to save lives. So that's what AB 1682 is doing. And so, really, they all have long legal histories and everything like that, but, what that is to say is, everything you guys do every day is important to our communities up and down the coast of California. And, we have visitors from inland that come out to the beach, and they have an expectation of safety, and that's because of what you do every day. So it's an honor to be with you here today, honored to be back in the old chambers. I mean, those doors didn't exist back in the day, and I'm not really clear about the construction out front. I came up, and I was like, I haven't been here for a couple years. So really an honor to be here with you today. If there's anything else when you go through your lives and you're going through and that would make it easier for you to do your jobs, please, this is Janet Chen, she's my district director. Please let us know, because we want to always make sure that you're able to do the best job that you can for our communities. So thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Board of Directors. And it's an honor to be here today. Bye.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of the Board of Directors, thanks for taking the time. Okay, bye. Okay. So that kind of lost where we are. That would conclude the junior lifeguards. Okay. Anything from legislation? Oh, we just heard about it. Yeah, she did a great job of summarizing it for us. Life-saving sport and fitness, Mr. Butke.
She didn't clarify how we're going to get blue lights onto jet skis in this AB 1682, but. Let's see, let me find my notes. All right, so life-saving sport yesterday. We had 8 chapters represented, about 20 people in the room. We normally, I see last year we had 15 chapters at regionals, so we got about 50%, a little bit over. Started with the life-saving sport rules, and on the website we're updating that and getting that stuff all fine-tuned thanks to Skip's efforts. Talked about 2022 CSLSA Life-Saving Championships. We're going to be incorporating pre-registration this year so we can get things off in a timely manner in the morning. Try to minimize the holdups from people registering for USLA and for the event on the day. If we can get all the pre-registration done ahead of time with Skip software and the registration ID, we should be able to get things moving along a lot faster and be more efficient in our scoring and our results. We'll have a FAQ that we posted with links up on the website to guide people as we get closer to the event. I think we're 14 weeks out right now. But we're set now with Huntington State Beach as the venue. Between towers 13 and 14, Beach Boulevard entrance. 8 a.m. start for the Lifeguard Day, 9 a.m. for JGs. I like it when you flirt. Talked just a little bit about Huntington State Beach, then we moved on to future venues. We had a motion presentation from Newport Beach Chief Brian O'Rourke and Brandon Hodding to have Newport host in 2023 and 2024. And the reason they were anxious to host was it's the, correct me if I say I misspeak, but 100-year anniversary of Newport Beach in 2023. The 40-year anniversary of Newport Beach Junior Lifeguard Program in 2023, 24, and then 24 is also the 10-year anniversary of the line of duty death of Ben Carlson. So we've got three reasons to have the event in Newport during that time period. They made a presentation. We had a motion to have Newport host 2023-2024 discussion period, and we went to a vote, and the vote was 7 yes, 1 no from Cal State, so the motion passed. The 2023-2024 regionals will be in Newport Beach. So now we've got the next 3 years, or next 3 events set, 22 in Huntington, 23 and 24 in Newport. So then we're looking for 25 and 26. Long Beach will be exploring the possibility of 25, 26, and we're also taking inquiries or interests or questions from anybody else in the region. We've not been to Tucson in a long time, so if they want to host. That was a joke. Yeah. Well, they are building some wave pools down in Palm Springs, so we may have to get something down there. USLA Nationals 2022 Jersey Mike's National Championships will be in Hermosa Beach in August, the 10th through the 13th. The Coleslaw is working furiously, and we will have a lot more information after we get back from Chicago on what the USLA is doing. 2023 Nationals will be back in Virginia Beach again. Kelsey Cummings from the USLA Athletes Committee, Athletes Panel, made a presentation on what they've been doing. The Athletes Panel meets monthly. They've got a Zoom conference set up, and then they also have quarterly meetings with the ILS Athletes Panel. Brian Murphy represented USLA at the last Athletes Panel, International Athletes Panel, with a 3 a.m. Zoom meeting because of the time zones from representatives in England and South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, et cetera. So Kelsey's report was the International Life Saving Establishment Athlete Panel become compliant with the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and this is critical for the push to include life saving in the 2032 Olympics when Brisbane, Australia will be hosting. The USLA does not have an established policy and procedure for an athletes panel, and we need to do that as one of our stepping stones to become compliant to be a national governing body with the USOC. Because if lifesaving were to be added to the Olympics today, the U.S. would be ineligible to participate because we don't have a NGB for lifesaving sport with the USOC. The ILS athlete representative is would be a voting member of the ILS. Sorry, the ILS athlete rep is a voting member of the ILS board of directors. So their athlete panel has a vote on their board, on their executive board. And there's a proportional requirement for athlete representation to become USOC compliant, and hopefully the USLA can strive to meet that standard in the future. The athlete panel, with the help of Bob and Bill and myself, wrote a set of bylaws to be submitted at the 2022 Spring Board of Directors meeting to be included in the USLA bylaws. It will be page 78 of the VII 7 competition policies, and a page memorializing the athletes panel, the election process, and their duties, and that would be then recorded on our USLA website. And then the last item she mentioned was how back in the early 2000s, Gus and I worked on what we needed to do to become USOC compliant, and Gus wrote a legal advisory roadmap that we need to bring out, update, and strive to follow for the future. Talked about the CSLSA rule change proposals that will be discussed at the USLA spring meeting. Add open mixed surf boat as a scoring event, and separate the landline relay from the current mixed race into a 2 events separated by gender, whether it be a women's landline and a men's landline, and then return the conduct of the landline event to the traditional historical way where the swimmers are starting at the flag line rather than swimming out for safety reasons. We had some issues in South Padre Island last year with the new version of the landline where the swimmers go out at a gun, and there were a lot of entanglement issues with that landline. Discuss the John Wayne Cancer Foundation paddle down and needs to improve marketing, sponsorship, and communication logistics, including purchasing a new GPS for both boards so we can record the progress and location of the boards, and possibly even reaching out to the Shark Lab for a GPS sponsorship deal because they know how to track things. Moving items. And then kind of tying in with the exchanges, the Whale and Shield Victoria, Lifesaving Victoria is deferred until 2023. And from their side of the exchange, they're interested in more opportunities on working as professional lifeguards or learning and training with our professional lifeguards as part of their tour. And then the final suggestion from the exchange was increasing the number of women from 5 to equal the number of men. And either we move up so we have 7 women and 7 guys, or the international standard of 6 and 6. Currently, we take a team of 5 women and 7 men, so 12 athletes. And so we will make strides to communicate with Lifesaving Victoria and work on the event structure and the athlete participation. The Australian Surf Lifesaving Championships are going on as we speak with 10,000 competitors. So we will do this once they're done with the Aussies, and I'll reach out to them and get that going. And that was the last item of our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Membership.
Good morning. The membership committee had a very well-attended committee yesterday, and so we thank everyone who was participating. We didn't have a lot on our agenda, but we did touch on a few things. We talked about next year's kit items for 2023's membership kits for the cost share items. So ideally, everyone goes back and talks to their lifeguards, their members, and says, what are the kinds of things that you would like to see when you pay your dues? What would you like to get? And you come to the fall meeting with suggestions, ideally with samples and or with company or references of where we can get these items, because that makes it a lot easier when we go to the USLA to propose those items if we have something tangible. So as you're out there talking about, wouldn't it be great if we got this in our envelope or this as our part of our package? So just want everyone to go back and think about that stuff. Second, we talked more about the USLA database and some of the problems that have been going on with it. And one of the issues right now that we're going to be dealing with is that The package that the USLA purchased with the database only includes 20,000 member records, and for many years, the company that we have didn't really enforce that, and gradually it crept up to about 45 or 50,000 members in there. And then they finally said, oh, you got way too many members. You either have to pay for 50,000 member records or get rid of all these old ones and go back to 20,000. So it's a significant cost increase, and so USLA said, okay, we're going to get rid of all these old duplicate members, long expired members, not a problem. But now we're currently sitting at right around 20,000 members with only 3 years worth of current members' records in there. And so every spring, we're going to have to purge out the third-year-old records. And so the USLA membership committee we'll find out a little bit more about it at the Chicago meeting, but they're going to draft a letter, send it out to all the emails in files. Some of them don't have accurate emails either, so those we can't reach, but send it out to people and say, hey, your record is about to be purged from our database. If you have any interest in renewing, now's the time to do it. So that anyone who wants to keep themselves current, they may have just forgot, especially because of the last couple of COVID years and stuff like that, can get in there before their profile is gone. But yeah, every spring we're going to have to probably purge several thousand expired members out of the system in order to make room for new members. So we talked about that a little bit, and hopefully we can make a smooth transition. I know for some of us, we rely on finding those members in there when we go to put our new members in. So the third thing we talked about was some more about the JG membership and the declining numbers and how we can continue to boost those. And we had lots of lively discussion at the fall meeting about great ways to boost the membership for junior guards, and more was talked about yesterday, especially working with the social media committee, with Sierra and with Leslie, to look into making either a CSLSA app or setting up a couple of Instagram accounts that the junior guard program coordinators would have access to for their own programs, and the kids can post things on Instagram with the hashtags and all that. Don't know much about it, but also chapters could have Instagram access, so when we're doing things like the paddle down, for John Wayne Paddle Down, we can post where the boards are, pictures, things like that on our CSLSA app or Instagram account. So I thought that was a great idea. I don't know much about it. We need to see if those girls can work on it or find out what the kind of necessity would be and what kind of layers of protection we have to build into that. And the last thing was that I'm going to make sure that everyone who's in attendance and signed my sign-in sheet is going to get copies of our existing membership flyers that are kind of Word documents that your own chapters can work with for both your junior guard program and your lifeguards, to say what's coming in the kit and why you should sign up, and include the QR code that the USLA created for the junior guards to have them go right to the page. So we can get those out there. So everyone will get the flyer and be able to start working on their recruiting for membership. And that was it.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
And if anybody wants any more stuff from past years, I still have stuff in the car. USLA has their current store up right now, and then we have our Square store set up. We just have to get photos in to set it up and then make it go live. So hopefully in the next month or two, and then we'll send a kind of an update out and notice out, hey, store is live. Thank you.
Thank you. Newsletter. No report from the newsletter. I think he handed it out in color yesterday. Professional standards.
All right, we had a pretty well-attended meeting yesterday, my first, and thank you for everyone that participated, helped out, a lot of good suggestions. So we talked about just basically information sharing and connecting a little bit more with California Marine Safety Chiefs Association to try to develop some standards in conjunction and working with them instead of taking somewhat parallel or perhaps divergent paths. We had some really good suggestions. We talked about, Brendan from Santa Cruz brought up possibly having like a central clearinghouse on the webpage or something where people could share their policies and procedures or standards that they were developing or have developed, so that everyone involved could view those and just sort of raise the bar a little bit and improve their own agency policies and procedures if needed. We talked about some of the standards that we want to take a look at and review and dig a little bit deeper into, those being PWC or RWC operations, EVOC, both on beach and street, dive team policies and procedures. So we have lifeguard agencies who don't have dive teams, but they're free diving down to 25 feet to pull people out of cars, all the way up to, agencies that have these really well-developed high-speed dive teams. So we're going to be sharing some of that information with each other, and then also free diving, just some free dive training or free dive policies and procedures to help with even down to your first-year seasonals that may be involved in a codex recovery situation. So there was some agencies that offered to share some information. Avery from Long Beach, I'm sorry, not Avery, Devon from Long Beach offered to share their dive team policies and procedures as long as it's okay with the chief. And then I'm also going to be sharing the International Association of Rescue Dive Specialists watermanship tests. And then we talked about field training guides and the use of those in training lifeguards and for documentation purposes. So I got everyone's email address that was in attendance, and I'll be sending out an email so we can start setting up some Zoom meetings and sharing some of these policies and procedures and whatnot with each other. There is a page on the website that everyone who's involved with the Professional Standards Committee should take a look at. It's under About CSLSA. Click on About CSLSA and then Professional Standards, and then it talks about there's sort of a little preamble. Talks about committee goals and committee tasks. So just a really good, introduction to what our goals are, what our tasks are or should be. And so looking forward to working with all of you on that. And I know we didn't talk about certification. Mr. Lombardi's not here, but I'm going to be helping him with, being an assistant certification officer or certification officer in training and working with San Diego County agencies to help them maintain their certifications. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Public education's already gone. No public relations or social media, correct? Special awards and presentations. Mr. Richardson.
President, it's okay, I'll just do it from here.
Great, thanks.
Well, the committee met, all 5 of us, for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. The first incident that we looked at was the big Sur Surf Rescue. Aaron Cothlow, and that's awfully close to Cracklow, so I may have to make another Black Cloud Award up. And Megan Brady, both 6-year California State Lifeguards, were submitted for awards of a rescue that occurred on Saturday, December 26th. 2 fishermen attempted to enter the dangerous surf with their ocean kayaks at Limekon State Park. Limekon is at the south end of Big Sur in a very remote area, with the town of Big Sur being approximately 20 miles away. The surf was breaking 10 to 15 feet with a pounding shore break and water temperature of 52 degrees. The victims were eventually carried offshore approximately 1/3 of a mile after they were separated from their ocean kayaks. Lifeguards Cothlow and Brady responded from Monterey, approximately 60 miles away from the incident. The 2 victims had been in the water for over an hour and a half and were now separated by a substantial distance upon their arrival. Cothlow and Brady both entered the water through the 15-foot surf. Brady was able to extract the first victim and passed him off to personnel that were waiting on shore. She re-entered the water to assist Brady with the second victim. As they attempted to get back to shore, the surf pounded them over and over. eventually pulling them back out to sea. After a monumental effort, they were able to pull the second victim out of the water. Both were treated on the beach, released to EMS personnel for transport to the hospital, where they reportedly made a full recovery. For their heroic actions under extremely hazardous conditions, Aaron Cothlow and Megan Brady have been submitted for the CSLSA Medals of Valor. The committee approved the submission and recommended submission to USLA for their Medals of Valor as well. The second incident is the helicopter crash at Newport Beach, which I'm sure everybody saw on TV a while back. Off-duty Newport Beach lifeguard Andrew Baldwin observed and was the initial responder to the crash of Huntington Beach helicopter HB-1 in Newport Bay. He was on board, this isn't in the report, but he was on board a friend's vessel having dinner when he saw the helicopter spiraling into the ocean. And I have personal knowledge of how this incident occurred. The helicopter was spiraling into the water because the pilot aimed for the water to miss homes and boats in the area to save lives. Brady dove into the 57-degree water to attempt the rescue of the pilot and his observer. Baldwin recounted that the lifeguard's worst nightmare, having one of the victims shouting, "Help me, my partner is still down there," and not being able to do anything. Baldwin rescued and assisted the pilot to an Orange County Sheriff's Harbor Patrol boat, which had just arrived on scene. During his rescue attempts, he tried to re-enter the helicopter, but was deterred by zero visibility and sharp metal and plastic debris caused by the crash. Even still, he dove on the crash site several times, but was unable to find and rescue the observer. Andrew Vela, the HB-1 observer, perished in the crash. Vela was recovered about 30 minutes later by other rescue personnel. For his heroic actions under dire conditions, Andrew Baldwin has been submitted to the CSLSA Heroic Act Award with recommendation to forward submission to USLA. So we therefore request approval of these submissions from the CSLSA board and permission to forward the submissions to USLA for committee for approval. Thank you.
Could I ask a question, Mr. Richardson? Who submitted the first award for the 2 lifeguards that made the rescue in Monterey?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Do you know who submitted the application for the first rescue of the 2 guards in Monterey? Who was it that?
It was submitted on, just recently submitted, and the incident occurred in 2020. The committee unanimously agreed that because of the pandemic and all the other kind of situations that are going on, that it should receive approval for the heroic actions that they took in that incident. I'm not sure that USLA will approve it because of the late submission, but we feel that they definitely should be receiving an award from CSLSA for these actions, and approved it at that, unanimously approved it in our meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. It was received. It was by Peterson. Was the last name. I don't have it right in front of me, but his last name was Peterson.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the awards as Mr. Richardson presented? Got a motion, Mr. Moore, second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes, thank you.
Thank you all. It'll be submitted to the national as well.
Great, thank you very much. That is, I mean, these awards, they keep me going. It is just amazing to hear these stories. Statistics, Mr. Burton.
No report, just a final plea to please update your annual statistics.
Do we have any statistics on how many times you have not had a report?
I'll look into it for you.
Thank you. Got to keep him on his toes. We worked together for years. Training and operations was already covered, correct? Is there anything else on that? No. Ways and Means, Mr. Scholl.
Thank you all for attending the meeting this morning. It was nice and early. We had 2 motions come up. One for public ed to receive the full $5,000 donation from the John Wayne Cancer Foundation every year until they stop giving it to us. And then the second motion was to have Skip be able to purchase printer and toner. Half would be taken from Life Saving Sport, the other half from the Junior Guard Committee, not to exceed $300. Both motions were passed. And I will be contacting our past treasurer to find out what happened to Pub Ed's money from last year. That is my committee.
So do we need a motion to approve those expenditures, or were they out of?
They passed in ours, but we can bring it to the board as well.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve? Charlotte? Okay. Do we have a second? And any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Is there a report from website?
Negative.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, that concludes the reports, unless I missed one. Okay, moving on to old business. Item A, committee guidance documents. There's no real update on that. We'll just continue working on that. That's the document that we're putting together, so every committee has a template to follow. Talks about their mission, what their resources are, general tips, et cetera. Do we have an update on California Marine Safety Chiefs?
I could speak to that, but I think Mr. Ketterer would do a better job. Is he around? BK still around? All right, great, thank you. He's the outgoing president, so if I could defer to him, I think he'd give us a better report.
Well, we'll move on, and then if he comes in, we'll ask him if he could give us an update. Junior Lifeguard 50-50 dues split. Is there anything on that? That was a membership thing? Okay. There's some holdover on here. Okay. Yeah, okay. Then the two-tier JG membership proposal, is that along the same?
That proposal has gone forward in the USLA, and they created the working group subcommittee to explore various parts of the proposal, and it makes good business sense for the USLA to move towards something like that. So we're going to get a report in Chicago from the working group on what they know or don't, or what they recommend on a two-tier proposal. So we'll know more about it next time.
Okay, thank you very much. And going back to the Marine Safety Chiefs Association, Mr. Ketterer, since you happen to be here, we always give an update on what's going on with the Marine Safety Chiefs Association. Would you like to say anything? Thank you.
Good morning again. California Marine Safety Chiefs Association. We are changing our board, so we just elected new board members effectively on Tuesday of this week. Tuesday of this week. Kevin Snow from Laguna Beach will be our president. Joe Bailey from Seal Beach is our vice president. Jason Johnson from Point Hueneme will be our treasurer, and then I'm blanking on her name, from San Diego City will be our secretary. Great board to come on board. We are going to go back and start building our training for vehicle driving or beach driving, and have discussions on what we want for diagrams and training for our agencies in LA, Orange County, and San Diego, and take that to the rest of the group. And that would be our instructor manual. We're going back and reviewing our rescue watercraft. There's been some small but significant changes on the way people are putting their rescue watercraft together and handling their equipment. So we want to go back and make sure that we're all doing it the same way, and we're making the correct approvals for that. And then our big push right now is with the Water Safety Coalition and the World Health Organization for Drowning Prevention Worldwide. We have a number of our members that are included in some of those subcommittees for California, including technology, drowning prevention, PFDs, and CPR, Stop the Bleed. So we are actively, as an organization, working on, I think statistics is our biggest one, and reviewing how we define drowning, how we provide, and then rescues and preventative actions. Not so much defining, but making sure that we're all playing on the same definitions when we're making those data points. And then we're talking about how we're going to pull or extrapolate metadata when someone's making a rescue, which comes into importance when we start talking about technology and moving that into the beach towers. So we'll be working on that actively. I think our committee for definition starts next week. And there's another one starting in 2 weeks for drone use and drone guidelines. And then we'll move from there into the use of technology in beach towers. So with that, I'll close it up unless anybody has questions.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Appreciate the update. Okay. Past due chapter dues, was there any update on that? Just CSLSA from our, I think that was kind of a holdover. I think that was taken care of.
I think that was addressed on
yesterday. Thank you. Amazon Smile account. Did somebody want to give an update on that? Probably.
We have received $10.99 from Amazon Smile.
For that, say. Okay, we're making progress.
I think it might be a good idea to promote that on the first day of this meeting when there's a lot more people here, because I mean, it's super easy. I've purchased a couple things on Amazon through that, and I've probably forgotten a couple times too, but I feel like we could be making a bit more money. I mean, who's not buying stuff on Amazon?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, that should be attached to our membership kits and somehow it gets out there because the members don't know that. I'm on the board and I only learned it last year.
So, hey, good timing. So that brings up Ms. Graham. Are there any more updates on the membership drive for 2022, 23, beyond?
Just what I stated in my report, that we're going to send out the flyers so people can update and edit it for themselves. And then I'm putting that in my notes to add the Amazon Smile on the top so people can promote it to all the recurrents, make sure they know that that CSLSA now is one of the nonprofits they can select when they're purchasing through Amazon Smile.
Great, thank you very much. USLA New Jersey, did somebody have an update on that, Mr. Avila?
There's not really an update. There was a committee or a group that was supposed to look into it, and those of you that aren't aware that there's a New Jersey Chiefs Association that certifies agencies in New Jersey to, well, they say to USLA standards, but there was an issue of whether or not there was a conflict of interest because the principals in that organization were also, had been or are USLA board members, and so and they were encouraging agencies to do their own certification without USLA oversight, without really any government oversight. That kind of, because of the dual membership, it's kind of a sticky situation to be investigating. I'd recommended that we use a third-party investigator or advisor, but there was no budget to do that. So there's been no action moving forward, though President Davis has said that he really wants to address it again during the next term.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the old business. So, new business, item A, it's the 2022 host agreement. Guess we should come up with a name for it, like the Assemblywoman does with a bill, but I'm not going to suggest one. Anyway, I'd like to entertain a motion that to approve the host agreement with a stipulation that we're acknowledging that it is a slight deviation from what the Board of Directors approved in October. So, would anybody like to make a motion? Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it was a tie. Okay. Is there further discussion? Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, 2022-24 sponsorship agreement. That's the one, that's our agreement that we've signed with Scott Hubble Beach Sport. And I think the details of that agreement were provided. T-shirts, $10,000. It's very lucrative agreement. So I'd like to enter, and I don't think that's not out of compliance with anything. So it's just a straight up motion to approve that. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Mr. Avila? Any discussion?
What are the years on that? I thought it was just for this year.
The host agreement is just this year, but the sponsorship agreement was 3 years. Is that correct?
The T-shirt clause is for 1 year and to be discussed with sponsor, but the $10,000 a year is for 3 years.
For 3 years. But I think either party could separate.
Yes.
If they desire. So, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. So outside of the agreement, 2022 regionals, do we have any information that needs to be shared with the board on the regionals? Kind of looking to it.
I think just based overall on the discussion yesterday, discussions that took place yesterday, it's just important issues are going to be the registration and getting started on time and the bulk registration for junior guards, right? So those are issues that we'll be getting more information on as it becomes available. Yeah? Charlotte? Yes? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. 2022 Usla Nationals. Mr. Budke, do you have any updates? Nothing else? Okay, thank you. Social media handbook approval from the Bylaws Committee. Is Mr. Moore around? Mr. Richardson, it is Mr. Moore that's the social media handbook approval. There we are. Bob, do you know?
Sorry, we were
Thank
talking
you.
about, new bylaw suggestions. So, all right, there are three things on the agenda. On the agenda, I'm listed for E, social media handbook. I submitted to the secretary, and I believe, and Leslie, to review of the corrections that Bill and I made, all the strikeouts, all the red changes. I've heard no comments, so to me, this is just a procedure that I need a motion to approve the changes and insert the social media handbook into the policies and procedures. So I will make that motion if somebody will second it. All right, is there any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, if I could, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that change will be made and submitted to the secretary and the webmaster for replacement. The next item is what I discussed in my report, that we had a cap of $50 for registration fee. And with the way things are going and time's moving on, it's harder and harder to meet that $50 cap. The $50 cap could be exceeded if they went to the executive board and got a waiver. I guess the last couple of meetings, people were not aware of that, so they saw that the previous meeting was $55, so they made $55. So that was, it's pretty unrealistic in this day and age, $55. It might be a lot of money to spend, but when you're trying to put on a meeting, it's not near enough. And sponsorship really helps put on the meetings, like the lunch yesterday, et cetera, which is very appreciative, but we need to be more realistic. So I want to change the $50 cap to $60. You cannot exceed $60 unless you go to the executive board. And so my motion is to change $50 to $60. If I have a second? For registration for CSLSA Board of Directors meeting. Okay, any discussion? Well, they could go to the executive board if it has to be more and explain the reasons why, and the executive board, the board of directors have given the executive board the authority to meet those obligations between meetings, and so they can make that determination. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? MPU, thank you. And the last one, we noticed yesterday, I guess we noticed the other day, but yesterday it came to my attention. There was a submission for life member, and it was approved and well-deserved, long overdue, Mr. President. Congratulations again. But our policy and our application stated two different things. And so I went through and I fixed it, I believe. And it was a unique situation because what you're supposed to do is submit the application after you go through this whole process to the secretary, and the secretary then shares it, and this is all confidential, with the president. And the president is, he then appoints a person for that one time and one time only to conduct a meeting with one representative from each chapter to discuss the nomination. Well, because the president is the president and he was the person, we had to fix that. So basically, and it was turned over to the membership chair, and that's because that's what it said on the application. We've fixed that now, that you submit it to the secretary, and the secretary will either give it to the president or an executive board designee. And that would get around us having to give it to the president if the person happens to be the nominee. So the secretary could be the executive board nominee, and he could come up and say, hey, Bob, would you mind holding a meeting, and then give me the application. I could chair the meeting. And then you get the votes, you count them, and then you destroy the votes, and then you notify either the president or the designee, and then that person makes the announcement at the appropriate time, as Mr. Berline made yesterday. So we cleaned that up, and so what I do is I'm going to move that the language, clean it up to make it submit to the president or executive board designee. I move that we do that. If I could get a second. All right, Mr. Butke, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Mr. President, I'll have these three completed to the secretary and the webmaster. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And sorry I caused problems. But the lead-in that you went into, and you said, "Oh, we found some problems here," I'm thinking, he's going to declare it null and void. I know these guys; they're sticklers. So, anyway, okay. Is there any other new business? That concludes the new business on the agenda. But any other new business, Mr. Berlin?
Thank you. Our sponsorship agreement with Scott Hubble, he has brought to the table a new partnership for CSLSA with Cedars-Sinai. It's actually the Curlin Job Institute. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Curlin Job. They're the leaders in the sports, surgical, and rehabilitation field. What Scott is proposing for CSLSA is he would like us to form a partnership with Cedars-Sinai, and all that we would need to do is to agree to a partnership, lend our logo, and in return, he says there will be future sponsorship which will generate more money for CSLSA in the future. The details have not been determined at this point. We don't know how much money will result as a matter of this partnership, but we expect it to be significant. And there is no contract, but he does right now want to announce the partnership in a press release, and he would like the use of our logo and a quote from our president. So I would like to make a motion that CSLSA enter into a partnership with Cedars-Sinai Curlin Job Institute, and that we announce this in the press release, and that our president provide a quote about the partnership, and future details will be presented to the board of directors, and any contract that comes from this will be presented to the board of directors.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
I would also like to compliment the new members of our executive board, in particular today and yesterday. Mr. Scholl did an outstanding job with the Ways and Means Committee, and that was one of the most efficient and formal Ways and Means meetings that I've seen. So he's off to a great start. Mr. Carey as well, I think, did an outstanding job with the Professional Standards Committee. So I think that our new members are making great contributions. In follow-up to what we discussed with the Junior Lifeguard Committee, there is, the discussion will be noted in the minutes as it occurred in front of everybody here. So the rationale for what was done will be explained, and moving forward, I do believe that we should have the two contracts that have been executed by the executive board and the president on behalf of this body should be approved by the board of directors. So I'm going to first, well, I'd like somebody else, since I was a party to the contract, I'd like somebody else to make a motion to approve the sponsorship agreement with Scott Hubble as signed by our contract. You already did? Okay.
We approved.
Both of them? Okay, they're both approved. Okay, sorry, I was outside. And then moving forward, I would suggest that the bylaw committee look at the policies and procedures as it relates to the entry fees and make sure that the split of the money that goes to CSLSA and to the host be consistent between the policies and procedures and the contracts, the host agreement in the future, moving forward.
Yes. To understand, we have the lifeguard split, I believe. I'll have to look it up. And we are to insert the junior lifeguard split And will that be the guideline for the future, for future contracts?
That is the intent.
Okay, I
But I think we need to do more due diligence on this, just to make sure that we have all the documents in front of us. But the idea would be to make sure that our policies and procedures reflect what the board of directors want in future host agreements.
Okay, and I'm to understand currently under this contract that the CSLSA receives 75% and the host receives 25%, so I can get the numbers in correctly? Okay. Is that direction or is that a motion? Could somebody make a motion to that, and then we'll move forward on that? You can make a motion.
Yeah, I don't want to make the motion at this time because I think there's more.
Okay, we'll have it prepared. We'll have it prepared for the next meeting, and we can discuss there. And then, okay, understood. Will do.
Great, thank you very much. Does that conclude new business? Great, okay. Winding down. Future meetings. CSLSA Fall 2022, so 6 months from now. LA County, are they still planning on hosting? Great. The dates are October 6th and 7th of 2022. So that should have some good attendance. Nice centrally located area. Spring of 2023, we do not have a location. So that's 1 year from now. Did we have anybody that was a backup to LA? It's usually listed here, but it's not. So right now I'm seeking volunteers to host. Your chapter can actually do pretty well financially now, but there's two options. You can do it all on your own, get your own sponsors, and reap all the benefit, hold a raffle, and sometimes you can make some money for your association on the side of hosting, having the opportunity to showcase your chapter and your agency. But the other way you can do it is you can let us know 6 months in advance that you would like to kind of do a 50-50 with CSLSA, and we help financially, and then we split the profit, but you don't run the risk of losing that way, but you don't make as much either. So do we have any chapters interested? Or at least if you can't speak on behalf of your chapter, take it back to your chapter and throw it out there. That'd be great. What's that? Yeah. Those guys can put on some lunches for us.
And they're all paid up.
I'll work on those guys. I will work on them. Good suggestion.
That's a good idea. Okay. Okay, moving on. USLA meeting day, spring 2022, is the Great Lakes region is hosting, and so the meeting is going to be in Chicago in a couple weeks, April 21st through the 23rd, 2022. If you've never been to one and you want to go to Chicago, it'd be interesting to go. The following fall, what's that? Oh, it's backwards. No, okay. Oh yeah, I'm backwards because the fall is the Southeast region, November 3rd through the 5th, 2022. And jumping ahead, 1 year from now, the host is going to be our region. So that'll be a great opportunity. It's not on the agenda, but that'll be a great opportunity for you all to attend a USLA meeting. They're real similar to our meetings, by the way, in format. The first day of the meeting is, committee reports and committee meetings. Then they have an extra day usually that's a educational day. And then the last day of the meeting typically is kind of like our last day here. So pretty similar. Sometimes they change it up, but that's the gist of it. Pardon? Yes, yeah, 1 year from now. Okay, is there anything else that I've missed? We're getting ready to conclude this meeting here. So, my final statements before we finish up. On a personal note, thank you, everybody, for the honor yesterday. And I was speechless yesterday, and it was just a great honor. But I'd like to thank Encinitas, the host chapter, for putting this together. It was a great meeting, great format. I'd like to thank all the sponsors in the back, and make sure everybody, if you haven't had a chance to visit them, this is it right now. I'd like to thank John Wayne Cancer Foundation. I know they're not here, but they just, I mean, she sends me an email and says, do you mind if I come and say something and give you $5,000? And I was like, let me think about it. But what they're doing is so important. Reaching the junior lifeguard kids, to me, far more important than that $5,000 is going out and talking to all the kids, going up and down the coast. That's absolutely amazing to me. And I wish that somebody had talked to me when I was a kid, you know. I'd like to thank Scott Hubble and Beach Sports for their sponsorship. Recognize, you know, it was a great honor to be there with all those heroes yesterday, getting their awards. And I know they're not here today, but that was just such a great part of this meeting. And overall, you know, and I kind of bounced around watching all the committees, and I was so excited to see everybody working to fulfill our mission, you know. And we do it in a whole variety of ways, but the ultimate goal is to protect the public. And every committee, you know, they're working on things, and whatever they're working on, it was all going in the same direction. And that's really neat to see. And there's always a little struggle here or there, but that's good. You know, dialogue is good, debate is good. You can't have everybody just, you know, saying the same thing. You don't get new ideas that way. So I really appreciate all of that. And then the bottom line is, I wanted to just thank all of you for coming and, you know, spending your time to help with something, you know, further our mission. You guys are super dedicated, men and women. When I say guys, I'm sorry. But I just really appreciate it. I want to acknowledge everybody. So thank you. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, and we have a second. Okay, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, meeting adjourned. Thank you.